Have you ever been in a situation where someone asks you a simple question, like, do you want to go to that party this weekend? Or should we take this job offer? And you just freeze. Not because you don't care, not because you're indecisive or flaky, but because you genuinely don't know what you want until you've had time to feel your way through it. Maybe you've said, I don't know, so many times that people think you're avoiding commitment. Maybe you've been told you overthink everything, or that you should just make a decision already. But here's what most people don't understand. You're not overthinking, you're processing. And if you're someone who needs to understand what you're feeling before you can figure out what you want or what to do next, you might be what psychologists call a feeling-first processor. Today, I want to show you why this isn't a flaw. It's actually a sophisticated cognitive style. I'll explain the science behind why some of us need emotional clarity before we can take action. And I'll give you practical tools to work with your brain instead of fighting against it. Because once you understand how you process decisions, everything gets easier. So let's start here. What does it actually mean to be a feeling-first processor? In cognitive psychology, there's this idea that people differ in how they sequence information when making decisions. Some people are logic-first processors. They can analyze facts, weigh pros and cons, and arrive at a decision relatively quickly, sometimes even before they fully emotionally processed what's happening. But feeling-first processors? We do it differently. We need to identify, name, and understand our emotional response before we can access our logic or make a clear choice. It's not that we're more emotional than other people, it's that our emotions are the gateway to our clarity. Think of it like this. Imagine your mind is a library. For logic-first processors, the filing system is organized by category: facts, outcomes, risks, benefits. They can walk in and pull the right book immediately. But for feeling-first processors, the filing system is organized by feeling. We need to know what emotional section we're in: anxious, excited, conflicted, before we can even locate the right shelf. And here's the thing. This isn't slower. It's just a different route to the same destination. Let me explain what's happening in your brain when you process this way. There's a region in your brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC. This little powerhouse sits right at the intersection of emotion and cognition. It helps you monitor conflicts, like when your gut feeling doesn't match the logical choice, or when you're experiencing mixed emotions. For feeling-first processors, the ACC is often highly active. You're not just thinking about a decision, you're scanning for emotional coherence. You're asking questions like, does this feel right? What does this tightness in my chest mean? Why do I feel relieved when I imagine saying no? And this is where it gets fascinating. Research in affective neuroscience shows that emotions aren't just reactions. They're information. They're your brain's way of integrating vast amounts of subconscious data, past experiences, bodily sensations, values, social cues, even subtle environmental factors you're not consciously aware of. When you say, I need to sit with this, what you're really saying is, I need to let my emotional processing system finish its job so I can integrate all this information. You're not avoiding a decision. You're gathering data.
And for people with high emotional granularity, meaning you can distinguish between subtle emotional states like anxious excited versus anxious dread, this process is even more nuanced.
You're not just feeling something. You're feeling 17 different things, and you need to untangle them before you know what they mean. So how do you work with this? How do you honor your need for emotional clarity without getting stuck in analysis paralysis? Here are some practical strategies. Tool 1, the emotional naming practice. When you're facing a decision and you feel that familiar, I don't know, fog, pause. Don't jump to figuring out what you should do. Instead, ask, what am I feeling right now? And here's the key. Be specific. Don't settle for, I feel weird, or I feel anxious. Go deeper. Try completing these sentences. Part of me feels, and another part of me feels. The sensation in my body is, if this feeling had a color or texture, it would be. You might discover you're feeling excited but scared, relieved but guilty, interested but exhausted, drawn to something but worried about disappointing someone. Once you name what you're feeling, the path forward often becomes obvious. Because now you're not wrestling with a vague discomfort, you're addressing specific emotional needs. Tool 2, the somatic check-in. Your body holds emotional information that your conscious mind hasn't processed yet. Before making a decision, try this. Imagine yourself saying yes to the thing. Actually picture it. Where do you feel it in your body? Does your chest open up? Does your stomach clench? Do your shoulders relax or tighten? Now imagine saying no. What happens? Your body will often know before your mind does. And for feeling first processors, this embodied wisdom is crucial. Because you're not just thinking your way to clarity, you're feeling your way there. Tool 3, the messy externalization. Sometimes you can't understand your emotions until you get them out of your head. Talk to someone. Journal. Voice memo yourself while you're on a walk. Say everything you're feeling, even if it contradicts itself. I want to take this opportunity, but I also feel exhausted. I'm excited about the challenge, but I'm scared I'll fail. Part of me thinks I should just push through, but another part of me is screaming for rest. Let yourself be messy, because here's what happens when you externalize. Your brain can finally see the full picture. You stop cycling through the same thoughts and start organizing them. And very often, just the act of speaking or writing your feelings creates enough clarity that the right choice emerges. Tool 4, the time boundary experiment. One challenge for feeling first processors is that we can get stuck in perpetual processing mode. So try this. Give yourself a time boundary. Tell yourself, I'm going to sit with this for 24 hours, or 3 days, or a week. During that time, I'm allowed to feel confused. I'm allowed to not know. But at the end of that period, I will make a choice based on whatever clarity I have. This does two things. First, it gives your emotional system permission to do its job without pressure. Second, it prevents you from drifting into indefinite postponement. And here's the beautiful part. Most of the time, the clarity arrives before your deadline. Because once you stop fighting the process, your brain relaxes into it. Now, a few important caveats. If you have ADHD, your emotional processing might include an extra layer of complexity called emotional dysregulation. This means your emotions might feel more intense, harder to name, or slower to settle. If that's you, you might need more time and more external support. Working with a therapist or coach who understands ADHD can be incredibly helpful. Similarly, if you're highly sensitive, an HSP, your nervous system processes emotional and sensory information more deeply. You're not being too sensitive. You're working with a nervous system that takes in more data. Honor that. Build in buffer time. And one more thing. Being a feeling-first processor doesn't mean you have to process everything deeply. You can still make quick decisions about low-stakes things. You don't need to emotionally process what to have for lunch, but for big decisions, career moves, relationships, life changes, give yourself permission to need what you need. I want to say something directly to you. If you've spent years feeling broken or slow because of this, you are not broken. You are not indecisive, weak, or incapable. You are someone whose internal guidance system requires emotional clarity. And in a world that often prioritizes speed over depth, that can feel like a disadvantage. But it's not. Because when you do make a decision, when you fully processed and integrated your emotions, you make choices that are deeply aligned with who you are. You don't have to second-guess yourself constantly. You don't wake up 6 months later wondering why you agreed to something that never felt right. You make decisions with your whole self, body, mind, emotion, intuition, all working together. And that's not a weakness, that's wisdom. So if someone tells you to just decide already, you can kindly let them know, I'm not avoiding this, I'm processing it, and I'll let you know when I'm ready. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how your mind works. But you do owe yourself the respect of honoring your process. Let's recap. If you're a feeling-first processor, you need emotional clarity before you can access your logic or make aligned decisions. This isn't overthinking. It's a sophisticated form of information gathering. Your emotions are data. Your body holds wisdom. And giving yourself time to process isn't weakness, it's self-respect. The tools we covered, emotional naming to get specific about what you're feeling, somatic check-ins to tap into your body's wisdom, messy externalization to organize your thoughts, and time boundaries to prevent analysis paralysis. And remember, the world needs people who make decisions from a place of deep internal alignment. That's you. So the next time someone rushes you, or you catch yourself thinking, "Why can't I just be normal?" Stop, take a breath, and remind yourself, I'm not slow, I'm thorough, and my depth is my strength. If this resonated with you and you want to dive deeper into understanding your emotional processing style, I've created a free guide called the Feeling First Processor's Decision-Making Toolkit. You'll find practical exercises, journal prompts, and scripts for communicating your needs to others. The link is in the description below. And if you want more content on psychology, neuroscience, and how to work with your brain instead of against it, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video.